going on, Lyle?
Hey, Mark, what's happening?
Not much. It's a beautiful night out here in northern Illinois. It's still like 87 Missouri degrees out here.
Yeah, 91 here. Thank you
No,
very much.
better you than me. I heard some people were having like 111 degrees today. I think Uncle Lou was saying his day was going to be really, really smoking hot today.
97 is the highest I've seen. That doesn't mean it didn't get to be more than that, but that's the highest I see. We got about another week. We do have some cool weather coming in next week. I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'll tell you right now.
I haven't checked my weather that far out. I'm just, they forecasted rain for the rest of the week, and then today it rained for literally about 10 minutes, and then just enough to make it humid as heck out there.
Yeah,
and now it's sunny as heck out there. It's pretty miserable, but we'll see what happens next week. My day's kind of packed tomorrow. I might get out and do a little pan fishing. If I do, I'll live stream it. Start doing a lot more of that on my channel. But I need to get out there and get some more bait, because with these warm temps, I need to get out and do a little night fishing, if you know what I mean.
I understand. That's early and late is about the action for me right now, and I'm not, as hard as it would be, you'd have to keep any kind of bait that you're holding back. You'd have to put it in a garage or something. You could not hold it out in a live well or bait tank outside right now. Not in the sun. It'd have to be in the shade. It's just miserably hot, and it's going to be for another week or so.
I had to time out your son for 10 seconds.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
The weekend battery dude, whatever his name is. He called us the B team today.
Oh my.
He'll be back. Oh, he's back already, I think.
Yeah, but he'll be back jaws of flap.
All right, we won't time anybody. I see Chad in here. Chad decided to show up. He's not calling.
He's been really busy lately, so
yeah, I imagine.
Glad to see him in here.
He's probably enjoying. Didn't he get a new smoker or something like that, or a new grill?
I don't remember what it was, but he got something. He was showing me pictures of food here a while back, but I don't remember what it was. My memory is not that great, but I do remember food.
That's kind of hard to forget, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
I think I saw that yesterday was National Hot Wing Day. I don't know if anybody.
I thought every day was National Hot Wing Day.
Yeah, pretty much. At least it's Mark Hot Wing Day. I didn't stop and get it. I was going to stop and get some yesterday and take a picture and send it to you, but I was kind of too beat. It got kind of hot yesterday as I finished my live stream, and the wind just kind of died to nothing. I just wanted to get home and get in the air conditioning. So
I understand. You go outside, let the dog out or whatever it is that you do, and when you come back in, it's like, wow, man, am I glad I've come back in.
Getting that boat pushed into the garage by myself gets to be kind of a task, especially after a long day of fishing. So it was hot out there on the water yesterday. I mean, it was hot enough to overheat my phone, so it kind of ended my live stream at about 5 hours. So
wow, that's still pretty good though.
Yeah, not too bad. I got out there. It was cool in the morning.
Should have had quite a few views that lake.
Yeah, I did. We did pretty good on that, and it is what it is.
Yeah, good deal. Not sure where we're at.
I'm kind of looking at what's going on. Oh, look at this. They're ganging up on us now.
I know. Jealous.
I know. They're gone for a couple of weeks. We have the best shows of our lives. They show up and it all turns to malarkey.
We have had the hottest weather of the year the last few days. I haven't been out. Although if I go out, like I said, it'll be early in the morning, most likely. And I got up in time to go this morning, but the wind was really bad. So I didn't go, but you can only wait so long, and you have to get out regardless of how hot it is or cold. It doesn't make any difference. Unless there's ice on, then I ain't going at all. But yeah, it's going to be miserable. We got another 10 days, look like, in the mid to high 90s, and man, so many places that we go, Mark, whether they be on ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, it doesn't really make any difference. You can find a place it seems like where there's shade and a breeze where you can stand it and there's no fish biting there, and you get out where the sun's at and cast into those places, and that's when the fish will bite. But you can't have it both ways, or I can't for some reason. It's either blazing hot or it's not.
I got a couple of spots that I panfish uh, that they stay huddled up in the shade on a really hot and high sun day time of day. They'll be right under that shade. So
Yep.
try to stay there. There's a picture that was posted of me, a memory from last year of me sleeping under a tree. Remember that picture?
I do. I have that picture somewhere.
I can imagine. Easy with that picture. I got pictures of you too in certain yoga positions, let's say. We won't get into anything else. But yeah, it's on days. Actually, that day right there was a prime example of fishing in the sun. Paid off just as much as napping. And I should say fishing in the shade paid off just as much as napping in the shade did. So.
Oh man, yeah. That's one thing about having an enclosure or a bimini top or something that you can put up the top on. It's not so much about keeping the rain off of you as it is keeping the sun off of you.
Yeah.
You can walk out from underneath that thing and it be 96, 97 degrees out there, and it's like the sun is beating on you and you can just walk underneath that. And them things aren't that thick, but they provide enough shade it feels 10 degrees cooler.
There's some nice ones out there that are like double wall insulated. I think I remember Creole talking about it, and that kind of piqued my interest. In my boat, I have not a bimini top, but a sports top that snaps to the front of the windshield.
That's well, mine.
That's fine and dandy, but if you're anchored up or fishing on a trolling motor with a drift sock, yeah, not too much breeze gets in through there. I think a bimini top is kind of the way to go in that situation.
You can get more air for sure.
You definitely can. So we may be adding one of them to the collection here at the house. So
yeah, I have that same kind of top on mine, and then the enclosure, the sides snap on and zip on from the sides and the back if you want to do it that way. We never use the back because if we're fishing, at that time of year, it's usually for catfish, and you just walk out and grab your rod and go. But the sides are very helpful, especially if you're in Asian carp country. They will keep them from coming in and whacking you. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to boats. But yeah, the sport top, as you called it, I don't even know that's what they call it, but it makes perfect sense to me. Mine snaps on to the front windshield all the way across and down the side about that far. I'm going to say 6 inches on each side. I could run wide open. It doesn't seem to affect it. You can see the pressure pushing it, but it doesn't really bother. Never come apart, never come off. But when you're just trolling along, unless the wind is blowing through that opening between the windshield, it's pretty warm.
It does. It definitely
For
does.
them guys, it's got these little electric fans. They might be onto something.
I got one, and it sure helps. Definitely.
100%. I never understood how it could make that much difference when you're sitting out in the sun. But in the case underneath one of them tops, I can see that being a major deal. But if anybody's fishing with you, you're going to have two because you'll be fighting over one.
I usually end up giving mine up to the wife whenever. Well, the few times I've had her out in the boat, so
she definitely is.
And then she points it at the dog, so both of us end up suffering.
Oh man, yeah, that's killer right there.
Some of us have wash down pumps. You got one, don't you, Lyle?
I have one. It's not installed yet, but I do have one. Yeah.
I was going to get one installed on my boat, and they quoted me a ridiculous price at the marina of $1,400. So I don't think I'm going to do that. But that would be a good way of keeping cool if you're not up to jumping in the water. What I plan on doing is Ryobi makes an 18-volt pressure washer. It's going to drop one. It looks just like a drill, about the same size with a hose. You can drop that hose into your live well, fill your live well up, drop it right into your live well. That'll suck the water out of there, and you can use it to wash it off or wash whatever off you need it to. You take the end of it off, and you can use it like a hose. You can cool the dogs off if they're in the boat, things like that. They come in pretty handy. So that's next on my to-buy list for the boat.
I understand. Well,
as soon as you give me that credit card number of yours, we'll make that purchase.
no.
Oh, okay.
But I'd like to help you if I could.
No, I hear you. Tell you what, when I check my lottery numbers, if I'm a winner, I'll buy you one. But
that's pretty nice of you.
Okay.
But if you win, you're going to win like $40 billion.
I can only hope.
You know, the thing about it is you're going to give up 50% of it in taxes, at least.
You know, if they're going to give me $40 bazillion, they can have half of it.
I'm good with that because you can't intelligently spend that much anyhow.
Nope, you can't. Well, I know a couple of people that might be able to.
Intelligently?
Well, I didn't. Well, I must have missed that part. I must have lagged out on me.
There was a movie once, if you remember it. I don't remember the name of it, where a guy had $1 million, but he had to spend it in one day or something.
What was it?
And it was a funny
Trading
show.
Places or something like that.
Yeah, the guy was. It was hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you done it in
Brewster's Millionaire, Brewster's Millions.
That sounds right. Yeah, but if you done it intelligently, it'd be even harder to do. Mm-hmm. So, maybe one day somebody will leave that much to you or me or both of us, and we'll see what we can do.
What do you say? I say hello to the people that made it in here today. I know there's a lot going on tonight. It's nice weather out. Hopefully people are either out fishing or spending time with their families. But we're always happy to see the people that have made it in today. So let me shout them out. There's Benoit Fishing Outdoors. Hello, Gabby or Allison. I'm never sure which one it is, Lyle.
Both, probably.
Bugman was in here. He just disappeared off the list. But what's going on, Bugman? There's Crappie Day, Darren, channel supporter. What's going on, Darren? How you doing? Fishing with Jeff Beal. What's up, Greg Burgess? There's our channel supporter, Joe Buck 66. Lance McCougai. What's going on, Lance? And Jerry Parker Pursuits, hot off his tournament.
I think him and Creel had a great tournament.
That's what I heard. I heard they finished middle of the pack with the trolling motor dying. I think that's what I heard. Was it either? I know I read it on Creel's post, or I heard it on Catfish Weekly on Monday, or both, probably. So.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but Jeremy had sent me a message, and I don't remember where he placed, but it was mid-pack, which is very respectable for the first live tournament that they was ever in. And they had trolling motor trouble where they couldn't do what they had planned on doing. So they had to go to plan B or C, as it may have turned out, and still finish like that. Yeah, that's a great time.
And they finished with 3 flatheads. There might not have been the biggest flatheads, but they were flatheads, and we like flatheads.
That's it. So, yeah, they had a great day. I'm sure they're very content with that. I know I would be. I'm trying to remember the first tournament I fished. I don't remember if we even placed. Maybe, but that was so long ago. Who cares? But they done really well, and very happy for both of them. And they got a bright future ahead of them.
You know, I fished an online tournament a long time ago. It was a fundraiser, and I finished middle of the pack on my little river here, the Fox River, and I was happy that I just beat that Ryan Borch joker.
I can relate.
He still wants a rematch. I ain't going to give it to him.
Okay, that's probably a good idea.
Good idea.
Mike Irwin, why are you sitting in the dark for the second night? Did I miss something?
Oh, maybe he's got power outage again. Hopefully that's
maybe. Sounds like he does. Joe Buck 66, member for 20 months. Thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate it. It is hot, man. It is. Matt, we want to be outdoors.
What's going on, Matt?
Good to see him in here. But yeah, our topic tonight was kind of a rebound off of last night, Mark. Rivers and lakes. And rivers for me is not I struggle with catching panfish on rivers, mainly because if I'm on a river, I'm not really going after bluegill and crappie,
I I I I
but
hear
they're
you
there.
and I understand, and you actually should. You know, I didn't do any live fishing for like the first half of the summer, and one of the reasons why is because I wanted to do a little exploring on the Fox, which I did, and I learned a heck of a lot as far as other species goes. And I'm not just talking about walleyes. I went looking for crappie. I found a few, but not anything to write home about. But I did find a lot of places for panfish on my river. Um, Not so much the spots I found, it's the types of spots that I kind of figured out, which I think was worth it. So
Hmm.
it's something to do. If you're going for one species and that's hard up, you can always switch it up and go for another. And that's just something else to add to my bag of tricks. Also, it's kind of nice. I've gotten in the habit last year. I got one spot near my boat ramp. I would catch my bait for the next trip before I pulled the trailer out, before I put the boat on the trailer. This
Uh-huh.
this way I'd get home, throw them in my bait tank. They'd be good to go for the next trip. I got in the habit of doing that there for a little while too. So
Danny Stone has joined us. Someone else,
there's David from Double Hook Angling.
Dave from Double Hook Angling, has joined us. Seems like I'm
Gabby,
missing somebody.
it's Gabby and Allison are both there.
Yes,
What's
it
up,
is.
ladies? Hopefully you guys saw your pictures. Your pictures are at the front of that bumper, and
There's several of them.
sometimes StreamYard lags too much. I checked on the replays of the show, and they're there, Lyle. So I don't know why that's different or what, but it is what it is. It could just be my connection here at home when I got three monitors or three video feeds running too. That could be on my end. So
That could be. It's hard to say. But yeah, they got several pictures up there and great fish. Everything's going good there. Lakes is a little different, Mark.
mm.
Our lakes that I fish are big. Lake Ozark, Truman. Truman's bigger than Lake Ozark.
Yeah, that's to get. It would take you like my lifetime to fish that whole body of water,
Oh,
especially that.
you're never going to get it done. Truman and Stockton's not nearly as much, but still, they're big lakes. They're full of bluegill and crappies. Stockton or Truman, Palm de Terre is one of the premier crappie lakes in our state. Probably bigger area than that. People come
Mm.
from all over to fish that lake, and it's full of bluegill. And bluegill like rocks, and they like brush, and they like weeds, and it's got it all.
Man, I've looked at maps of Lake of the Ozarks, and I see all those little fingers, and Stockton too, and Pompey. See all those little. I'm not sure about Pompey. I think it's pretty close to the same if I remember correctly. I could be wrong though. They got all those little fingers and all those offshoots off that lake. I could imagine just picking one a day every time I go out and just go through it thoroughly and write it down in my logbook, the time of year, temperature, everything, and try to get at least half a dozen of them, maybe a dozen of those little things figured out in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Build my quote unquote fishing database from there. That's how I would go after
I
it.
have a spot on Palm de Terre that I want to fish so bad, and I don't just want to fish it for bluegill and crappie. I want to fish it for catfish too. And I'll tell you about it. As we go in to where we put the boat in and out from my house, it is I don't know, 8 miles from there. You see this ramp, and the reason I don't want to use that ramp is that sucker is straight up down, and they don't have a parking lot where you can park anywhere close to the bottom of the ramp. You have to walk up that hill, and the parking lot's at the top of it. And I can't. I don't think I can do that. And it's a long back down into it, which really doesn't bother me. I can handle that because you can drive down there, turn your boat and truck around and back in. But you got to park, walk down the hill, and at some point, you're going to have to walk back
Go
up that
back
hill.
up.
And I don't want to do that. But if it wasn't so far, and Eric Massey was on here, he could tell me what, because we've talked about this part of it. But my God, it has got so much structure. You can see down trees in it. You can see all kinds of trees pushed up against the banks. It's one of the main current parts of the river to start with, and you know the fish are there. All of them. They're all there. And you never see too many boats at that ramp, but there's always boats out there in that water. But they have to come from a long way to do it. Well, with the price of gas, it's kind of hard to justify that. Dockery, stop it. But there's so many places to fish down through there, and it's a small river channel that makes up part of the lake. So I'm excited about someday getting down there to fish that. I think a guy could probably go down there late afternoon and fish for bait or panfish, whatever you want to call it. Catch you some and probably do really good catching flatheads down there with all the structure that's on that body. And then get up the next morning and go back after your crappie and bluegill. I think would make for a fabulous overnight fishing trip. Just me. So maybe when you come down, we'll try it.
That sounds good. James Dockery, welcome. What's going on, James? How you doing, bud? I don't think I said hello to Danny. I'll say hello to Danny. Yeah, that climb back up to a parking lot is always after you've been fishing for the 8 hours and you're not really all the way up there.
That's what I'm saying. What they need is a cable run down to. There's one of the little seats that takes you back to the top. I could really get into that.
We're going to get you one of them electric scooters, some little electric razors, Lyle.
Okay.
Fold up. You can just ride.
I need an extra heavy duty motor.
There you go. We can wire it. We can wire it up. You got Josh to help you out. Get you some extra power. Put a 36-volt drill battery on there. You'll be rocking and rolling.
You see, if you take somebody like Dockery with you, skinny as he is and as tiny and short as he is, he can just run up that hill. It wouldn't bother him at all.
I just had an image in my head of you driving with him behind you on one of them little scooters.
Oh, I know.
Now, as far as now for the rivers that I fish, we're good. I don't know if you saw me and setting hooks and crossing eyes. We've been kind of chatting back and forth in the live streams, including on Monday. And we've been a little concerned about the weed growth here on the Fox on the river. It's been pretty crazy. A lot of grasses getting washed down because of that high water that have caused them to close the river for a week and so on. I know I complained about that for a while now. But the aftermath of that is that there's a lot of weed growth. A lot of the fertilizers and stuff washed into the water. I'm imagining it don't help. A lot of the nitrogens and the weeds have gone crazy. I haven't seen them this bad in a long time. Everything from lily pads to duckweed. There's even some hydrilla, I think it's called. You'll have to forgive me if I got the name right. I'm seeing a lot of that stuff. But that's going to provide cover for a lot of fish, definitely. So I'm hoping to get out and maybe do a little bit of panfishing on the boat, not just catfishing here real soon, and see if I can't fish inside those weeds and see what's hiding up in there, catch something other than, little 4-inch bluegills, which I have been on the river, and little cigar-sized channel cats using, Berkeley gulps, Berkeley gulps, regular minnows, and regular night crawlers. That's what I've been getting. But I know there's some bigger fish early in the spring with hand ties and some plastics. I got into some good crappie in a couple of the channels and stuff, and I made note of where I caught them. Some nice ones, like 14-inch whites and such. So I was pretty happy to find that. But now those channels are so overgrown on the river, I can't even get back there. It's that thick. Well, actually, I could get back there, but I wouldn't be able to get a bait down into the water if there are any fish hiding in there anyway. So,
wow, that's something. Excuse me. I want to touch on your bait tank before we leave. If you can remind me about that, I want to talk to you a little bit about that before the show is over.
All right.
right now, if you're planning on doing any fishing through the daytime, it's going to be really hard to keep fish alive. If you have an exposed live well like I do, they nearly boil in it unless you're changing that water out all the time.
I do that. If you're fishing for bait, which in this temperature, that's the only reason why I would keep a fish that a panfish while I'm fishing is for bait. And I'll do water swaps, or I'll bring a frozen 20 ounce pop bottle with me. Keep one in the truck, throw one in the bait bucket that I'm using, and that usually helps. You know, I've upgraded my bait, my live well. You did too, your bait well too. You got an insulated, the Frabill, and I got the Whisker Seeker ones, and they'll keep it a little cooler too. But if you're starting out with, 85, 90 degree water out of a pond or out of a lake, it's not going to do anything but get warmer. So you need to have at least a 20 ounce bottle to bring it down a notch.
Yeah, and mine, it wouldn't help as big as it is. Mine's 93 inches long, 15 high and 15 wide. And you put that out in the sun with that shiny top on it, and it's going it I stuck my hand in it out there a while ago, and it's, I don't know, 90 degrees, maybe more. So it's really got hot.
My bait tank's doing really well this year. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx it. With the
But is it inside?
It is inside my garage. I'll open a garage during the day, but I won't open a door. It's in front of. I have 2 doors in my garage, so it's in the shade. It still gets a little bit of fresh air. It still gets a little bit of sunlight, not ambient sunlight, not direct sunlight. I've been keeping them fed pretty good with food specific for bluegills, bass, and catfish, like pond food that I bought a bag of. And they seem to be doing really good. I've only done 1 water swap this year, and I've kept constantly, 14 bluegill, 20 bluegill in it all summer long. Granted, it hasn't been the hottest summer. We haven't had 100-degree weeks, but I'm pretty happy with how it's handled it this year. So I can't.
Well, that kind of answers most of the questions that I wanted to touch on. I wanted to know if you kept it in the garage. I was sure that you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to know about if it was out of the sunlight, if you kept the garage door open. And I knew you'd said something about feeding them.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't remember what you said. But now, where do you go to pick up the feed for your...
I order it from Chewy. Chewy.com. What's going on, Caleb?
Great to see you in here tonight, my friend.
I ordered a 25-pound bag, which is way, way too much. It'll last me forever, from Chewy.com. And what I did with it is I filled up a 5-gallon bucket and put one of those gamma lids. You know what those are, Lyle?
No.
Gamma lids are those ones that you screw onto the top of a bucket with an actual O-ring seal on them.
Okay.
They're airtight. And I got a buddy in the manufacturing business. He gave me a bunch of the Desitin packs. The size, well, the one I have in there is actually the size of like a cornhole bag, like one of those, like a bean bag size. Keep one in there. It should last me forever.
Good deal.
I did leave it open one time, and I did see a little bit of, maybe I got a mouse or something in the garage. I think one got in there a little bit, but I saw some of it scratched up. But I only need to feed them like maybe, I don't know, maybe 2-3 tablespoons at a crack. That's about it. That's all it takes. So I got.
You don't have very many in there.
Yeah, I got enough food for a long time.
David Double Hook says 106 there in Kansas today, buddy. I'm glad it was you and not me.
Unless you got a refrigerated bait tank, there is. I would not consider them. I'd pack them fish up and take them back to where I caught them, to be honest with you. Look at Parker.
Hey, you're killing me, Jerry. You're killing me.
He didn't even spell it right.
Oh man!
Says, freeze bottles and use it to keep the water cool. Yeah, Matt, that works for a little while, but if you have circulation in your bait tank, which you should definitely, not only from the filter but from the aerator stones that you should have in there, it'll act like a convection oven, and it'll melt that bottle so fast it'll make your head spin. It's not even funny. They melt like right away.
Shade is your friend. In hot water, shade is your shade is your friend. You got to have it one way or the other, and if you don't, you're just going to have problems. And this is the first year that I've had so much trouble with my live well, but it's really not working out. So the bait tanks with 2 or 3 in them, in case I decide to go, I have a Frable 30 and I have an Engel 30. Both are really good. There is some advantages, and I'm going to be doing a review on the 2 of them. One of them actually fits in my boat better than the other. The other one fits in the back of my truck better than the other one. One of them has 2 aerators on it. The other one does not. One of them is quieter than the other. So there's advantages all the way around. I'll go through that when we do this, but it's got to be less than 97, 98 degrees before I'm going to be going out and doing it. It's just too damn hot. But I have both, and I like them both. And I know Chad has a Engel, and he loves his. It's a little easier to carry if you put water in it and carry bait.
Yeah, I got a 5-gallon one, so it holds quite a bit. That bait shack that I got, it gets pretty heavy.
Is that the one from?
That's the Whisker Seeker ones I got on Black Friday special. Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? I kind of had a lot of second thoughts about buying it, but now that I have it, I'm happy that I have it 100%.
Oh yeah.
Water stays cool in it. It's got the 3 aerators. The lithium battery lasts for freaking ever. It's quiet. It's.
Looky here. Well, I guess you already had her up there. Betty Jean, welcome.
Hi, Betty.
I have a lot of little creeks and rivers that I can go out and catch bait. And those little insulated fish tank coolers, whatever you want to call them, they're built like a cooler basically with insulation, and they'll hold several fish. You can overload them if you're not careful with fish, but for going out to creeks and small rivers and stuff and putting them in the back of your truck, and there is that's a great statement there. Jerry just put out, the chlorine will kill your fish, and it will. But if you're going out and using them like I do, take your 5-gallon bucket and dump up some of the water that they're already in and fill it up in the back of your vehicle with that, and then you've got good water. Or put it in there the night before with some of that treatment, and that's what I do in my live well.
I was going to say that right off the bat. What I'll do on the really hot days before I was having issues like last year, I did get a 5-gallon bucket, scoop 5 gallons out of my tank, which I fill it up to 70 gallons, scoop a full 5 gallons out and throw it out onto the lawn. I'll have a green spot in my front yard where I do that, Lyle, just right up that. And then I'll pour just a tiny, like a half a teaspoon of that blue stuff, the better bait, into the 5-gallon bucket, get the hose running nice and cold. And I have a lot of chlorine and fluorine in my water, and I never have a problem, but it'll knock that temp down in a hurry, just like that. Now, Jerry's comment about the ice, if you're looking where you buy ice, it'll say crystal clear. It'll say filtered water. That does not have chlorine in it, Jerry, just so you know. If you can check, a lot of times the ice does not. So
the stuff that I put in mine comes from Walmart, and it's like for people to put aquarium fish in. But you can put the recommended amount or just over that amount in that live well, fill it up with tap water right out of the hose, put fish right in, and they won't die. It worked that quickly about getting the chlorine out. But if you're not in a hurry, you don't even have to use that. Just put it in there in 24 hours. It'll just dissipate.
It'll be even faster if you drop an aerator stone in there, Lyle.
Right. What I have is is a 500 gallon per hour rule pump that has what they call an aerator in it. It's got a deal that sticks in where the water goes out
Mhm.
of the discharge, and it sucks a suction line that you put outside your tank that sucks fresh air, and it disperses air bubbles in there. They'll it runs for days because the water's cooling it off. And hey, live in Minnesota outdoors, and it pumps aeration in constantly, and it makes the water move. So with a little bit of salt and some stuff like that, better bait, any of that stuff. You can keep fish unless it gets hot like it is. You can keep fish alive in it for a long, long time.
Another thing that you want to keep in mind, people, if you got a small aerator, those pumps get hot and they'll actually heat the water up. They'll add heat to that water.
Oh yeah,
Just so you know. Here's something that somebody showed me a while back that was a great idea. He had got an old CPAP machine. I think he bought it used, whether it was on Facebook Marketplace or on Craigslist or something. And he hooked up a few aerator stones to that bad boy. And if you know, those things, they run forever. They won't go out on you. They pump nice cool air. As long as you disconnect the heating element, you'll be good to go for a long time. If you want to build one of them aerator boxes like a lot of these fancy bait tank companies have, you can do so. That'll provide more than enough CFMs of air. So
right. I don't know anything about those, so there's no sense of me really making a comment on them. But any way to put aeration into that live well is a good thing. The thing you need to remember if you're doing that is the smaller the bubbles, the better off you are for the fish. Something about the bubbles, the smaller they are, the easier it is for them to acquire it, I guess. I don't know how
mhm.
you would say it. And it's better for them. And I don't know what a CPAP machine would put out in water, but I have the bubble machine that you buy, the little rectangular box, white box with a decal on top of it. I have two of those that are 12. I have one that is 100. I have the rule pump that I told you about,
Mhm.
and it does get hot, but that thing puts out an unbelievable amount of oxygen, and it's straight out of the air. So it works really good. The problem with those is after they get to be a few years old, and I haven't figured out where you get new suction cups with, the suction cups goes bad and they don't hold very well. But in my live well, it has four corners, and I just push it up against the corner. And unless the fish get to bouncing off each other in there and hitting it, it'll sit there and be good for a long time. But if they do, then it turns sideways, and well, it
Yeah.
don't work out very good. And I've thought about gluing the feet to the bottom of the tank, and I don't want to do that in case I want to take it out of there. But the suction cups they're just so old it just went. I've had that thing for years, and Mark, it works really really good. I'm very pleased with it, but it will heat the water up. It really will.
Yeah, the problem with this that I found with the suction cup ones is if you get any kind of slime or any kind of algae type growth in your bait tank, you're never going to get it to stick to anything. So
No,
I
you're
just go
right.
on to Amazon and I buy like the little aerator. They look like balls or they look like cylinders types, and I just hang them over the side. I'll put a Y in there, so rather than having a need for one of those big ones that sit on the bottom, I'll just tee it off into two on each side. I got this 120 volt Frable one that I use, or 110 volt, I should say, and that works pretty good.
Curtis, we're talking about keeping bait alive in tanks, my friend. I'm so sorry. We're talking about keeping them alive at bait alive in live wells and bluegills alive in tanks and stuff like that. Man, I didn't know we was that confusing. But that's
Yeah,
where we're
David's
at.
been working on his pontoon boat pretty hard. I think he actually, if I'm not mistaken, David, I think he got out there and fished on it, and that was kind of cool to see. I know you're working on your automotive project right now, so I'm sure you got everything under control. I got full faith in your abilities. He does some pretty good work for sure. Parker says, in the process of putting an oversized live well on a boat for just in case. That's always a good idea, Jerry. And then you can start fishing some tournaments too. You know what I do, Lyle? I have a 35-gallon live well, is the biggest one of the two that I have in my boat. I have a trophy size stringer. And this stringer is paracord, and it's got heavy duty metal stainless steel like safety pins on it. They're not safety pins, but they're like that. They're like C clamps. I bought this a while back, and I've never even opened it out of the package. But if worse comes to worse, and I need to put that steel pin through its lip, I'll do that and motor on over to a bank and wait for the right people or someone that I know over here with an extra large live well. It'll definitely keep that fish alive for sure. That's an option too if you're worried about that. So
I do have a 60-inch by 24 by 24 truck box made into a live well with a discharge on it sitting in my backyard that someone needs to own because I don't use it anymore.
There you go.
So if somebody's interested in one, I do have one.
You'll mail that to him, right, Lyle?
No. Pick up only. I can't imagine what it costs to ship one. Can't imagine. Plastic board customized.
Not quite sure, Jeff, what's going on.
I don't know.
He says, go on Marketplace, buy used cooler, done. There you go. There's always a good idea, too.
Yeah, and they make the plastic coolers up, I think, 250 quart. That's a big one.
20-gallon drink cooler will work. Anything insulated will work. If it'll hold water and you can get air into it, you can get fresh water into it. I'm assuming that he's talking about it being on his pontoon boat. It should be good. And if you're adding a big live well to your boat, remember, water's 9 pounds a gallon. So consider that.
I haven't heard from him in a while, Richard, so we'll see. But I have the plumbing and the setup to put one in the very front of my boat. It come with a circulated live tank in the back and one in the front. But Mark, it was like 4 or 5 gallons. They're from Minnows. It's a walleye boat. It wasn't big enough to hold anything of any size. So I've taken them both out. The back deck I completely redone so I could put a big enough live well in it to actually work. Because one had come out and it was 26 gallon. Hell, you couldn't even put 5 channel kit in that thing, expect them to live. And then the one in the front, I cut it out, and I have a plate over the hole that goes where the batteries and stuff are down below there, and I get all that stuff. But I built a live well with a tank on it out of a, what the hell was it, 10-gallon, 12-gallon plastic bucket that swimming pool stuff was shipped in.
Right.
Well, that worked out really good, except I forgot to drain all the water out of it, and it cracked and broke a couple of years ago. No. So now I'm working on another.
There you go. Give you something to do.
Like I need something else to do.
Jerry says Richard still wants that live well, Lyle. So
okay. Let's hear.
David says, boat, break out another 1,000. That ain't no joke.
There is so much truth to that. It's unbelievable. So much truth. Oh, man.
Danny Stone Outdoors says, Lyle, I'll tie a note to a rock saying, buy the dang live well and throw it through his window. He'll remember that. No, don't do that, Danny.
Don't do that. I know that she is not feeling well right now, so maybe that's got something to do with it. And wish them the very best and her to get to feeling better right away, because that's a bad deal when someone is not doing well. Very nice.
Lyle, real quick now, back to fishing. We covered rivers a little bit. Now, lakes. Let's get back on target. I know that's kind of hard for you and I.
It is for
but we
some
got
reason.
to do it, or they talk about us.
I
Josh
know
and Chad will be
they do
talking.
anyhow.
Yeah, this is true. Um, when I'm fishing lakes, which I don't fish as often as a lot of people here in chat or listening to the show in audio, um, I'm electronics heavy guy, especially in the dog days of summer like now, because they're a heck of a lot deeper. They're
Mhm.
hiding in weeds. You know, you could always throw at docks, definitely, but this time of year, at least in my part of the country, docks, if you don't have deeper than like 6 feet of water at a dock, which we don't in a lot of places where I fish, they're overgrown with weeds. So I'm electronics dependent when it comes to it. And what I'll do is I'll definitely find weed lines. Everybody tells you to keep fishing with weed lines, which is a good thing. And I don't care how good you are at side imaging, you're not going to be able to find fish in the heavy weeds. Not well at all.
No.
What I like to do is find that weed line and troll slowly along the side till I find little indents or breaks or openings in the weeds, whether it's right at the edge or whether it's 10 feet off the edge, and I'll chuck one of those buoys, those crappie buoys off at it.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get as close as possible. Take note of the depth, and I just start casting at it until I give up. Either I quit getting stuck in the weeds and I find fish, or I quit getting stuck in the weeds and I don't. If I either of those happen, I'm either on the fish or I'm not. I move on to the next spot. So I kind of been doing that a lot lately, and that's been pretty successful for me. I'm still looking for some of them big bluegills here locally outside of pond fishing, but you know, it'll happen sooner or later. But that seems to produce a lot of fish for me too. Um, a lot of people like to fish brush piles, which is good for fish like crappie, obviously. A lot of the bigger crappie, and I've learned this from talking to the. We had mentioned the DNR and how I talk to the guys that do the electroshocking here once in a while when I see them. The biggest tip, they won't give me, they don't give out locations, but they'll tell you information that's definitely beneficial. And I've heard you say this time and time again, and I'm a firm believer in it. Listen to what they tell you. They'll give you things like depths. They'll give you, you know, they'll say, hey, they're on brush piles. That's where we're finding them. They'll say, okay, the big ones, I'll see on their report that they caught like a 4-pounder. I'm like, well, where are you guys finding fish of this size? They always tell me they're lone fish. They never find more than one when they find them, and they travel alone, and they're always on the move. Things like that definitely help. So those are my 2 tips. Use your electronics, find the weed lines, find the breaks in the weed lines, find holes in the weed lines. Talk to the DNR if you come across them. You could probably even give them a call. They might help you. I don't know. I've never done that, but I would definitely try if you're coming up with nothing. You can also talk to the guys over at the bait shop and stuff. Get a good rapport with them. I've got a couple of bait shops here. I got Dave Krantz's bait shop. Dave's a great guy. He'll give you tips on where to look. He won't tell you exactly where to look, but he'll give you some tips. But then on the other hand, I got another guy who owns a bait shop, and he's kind of a jerk, but that's another story. That's when I'm going after fish on lakes. That's pretty much the way I do it. Outside of humps and things like that. But you'll see them if you got your electronics. They're either going to be suspended over those humps or they're not.
I'll tell you, the lakes and stuff that I got. Like I say, I got several of them, so I can pick and choose what I want. But my favorite thing about fishing lakes is side imaging. It is so for lake fishing. I'm very dependent on it. Now, I like 2D sonar for a lot of things, but when I'm looking for things that are related to crappie and bluegill, side imaging is the key, especially when bluegills are spawned and they're up in them nests. You can just come out and cast to them because I never, even though you can go 120 feet either side of the transducer, I find myself when I'm catfishing 70 foot on each side or less. When I'm pan fishing, I'm more like 30 or 40 feet because the images become bigger and you can tell more about what you're looking A lot of times I'll go down to 25 or 30 feet, and I'll get in tight next to the bank, and you can just pick them out. Also, like to look for weed lines because they may or may not be in the weeds, but they'll be around the edges of them. And you can, if you can find them that way, you can catch them all. And I enjoy fishing like that. I I want to drive the James Dockery School of fishing because he is a firm believer in very small tube jigs, and I got a ton of them. I've had very limited success with them, and I know he has a great deal of success with them. So I have to find out if it's the wrong time of the year that I'm trying to use them, the wrong type of structure I'm trying to fish them on, or just what the deal is. Because for me, none of the plastics catch fish like hand ties. And maybe it's the way I'm using them, maybe it's the way I present them, maybe it's the places that I'm fishing, but it can't be that much difference from what he's doing, and he's catching fish with plastics, and I don't. Not to the extent he does. Now I can get the hand ties, and man, I can have my way with it. But if one guy's fishing plastics and being that successful with them, the next guy ought to be able to too. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you. I think James. This is my guess at how James is so successful. He's probably got a really steady hand. He's able to keep them baits right down there. He's good at figuring them out, and it's got to be that hook set when he hits that dock roof. It's got to be that hook set.
Jars the hook right in.
It's patience. You know, James is probably people might think he doesn't have patience, but when it comes to fishing, I'm pretty sure James is a pretty patient guy.
Oh, he'd have to
He
be.
does almost pretty much most of his fishing off the bank or a dock or something like that. And
Yes.
I
have seen him in a boat before, though.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at what Jody called me. There you go, Jody. Take a break.
I have a feeling she is on your chit list.
I just put her on the 1 minute timeout list and let her think about that. Now there's a term that I came up with not too long ago. It's like wishing fishing. I know a lot of people that'll fish a spot and wish they're catching fish.
Yeah.
You got to move. And something else that I'm learning in the last, part of my life is if there's fish there, they're either going to bite or they're not. If they ain't going to bite, you're wasting your time. If they're not there, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You can't force them to bite. You can't force them to materialize. If you're not catching fish, move. I'm guilty that if I'm live streaming a lot of times, I'll overstay at a spot, just hoping that maybe I'll get on something, or I'm more worried about entertaining the people watching. That's my fault. We're going to try and stop doing that here as of late. That's kind of where I'm going in the near future. Is going to be stay on the move. And I'm learning to trust my electronics a heck of a lot more. I mean, if there's fish there on side image, they're either going to bite or they're not, or I'm not seeing fish. I'm seeing something else or the wrong kind of fish. So those are probably my ninja tips of the day right there.
Well, I would agree. But if you don't trust the electronics, then why do you got it?
Well, a lot of people, and I'm not going to say that hasn't happened to me, is you don't fully understand what you're looking at, Lyle.
I'm thinking that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I will tell you something. If you have ever been out at night and use your electronics for mapping, and you're on strange water, say 10 or 15 miles from where you put in, and there's all kinds of bogeys along the way. And if you keep your boat, if you went up there and didn't hit anything, you keep your boat right on that mark going back. You won't hit anything going back. That's trust.
I got a little, okay, here's a bonus tip. I know online. Jody said it again. I'm ignoring her.
And Mark Duggar, welcome.
What's up, Mr. Duggar? All right, here's a bonus tip of the day. I know on Garmin, and I believe they have it on the other makes of electronics, there's something called a Rosetta. If you know what a rosetta is kind of the thing at the bottom of a old printed out flag. Printed out map that shows directions. Well, you can put a rosetta around your boat icon on your electronics on your GPS map, and you can set how far around the boat. So if you're used to casting 50 feet with a live bluegill, you back that rosetta up so the edge of it's touching that structure that you have marked. You know you're going to cast right on it. Plain and simple. I use that a lot on the river. What I do is I'll use the current. I'll pull up in front and I'll drift back until that rosetta touches that GPS waypoint where I marked structure, and I'll cast right back on it. And I can pretty much get onto that structure each time. So did that make sense?
Yes.
What are you laughing about?
Jody.
Oh.
Question is she's doing that on purpose, or does she just forget?
Nah, probably. No, she's either that or she's napping.
Well, I don't know how old she is, but you get a certain age, you forget stuff.
Yeah, this is true. She did talk about needing to dye her hair a lot more earlier today. David over at Double Hook Angling says, I have a Garmin and it's kind of complicated. The more you use it, the easier it gets, David. Watch a lot of videos. Holler, you know how to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to walk you through it if you got any specific questions. So
it doesn't matter what kind it is. The more you use them, the easier they become. They sure do. And they're all good. It's what you get used to using, I think, for a lot of it. But there's some in particular that I'll never have anything to do with again. But just because I had bad experience with one.
I think I need to buy some do you got 80th ounce jig molds, Lyle?
Not molds, no.
All right. I need to buy some 80th ounce jigs from David then. I'll have to contact him. Maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, that's tiny. I've got some. I've tied some. I don't have the patience for them to get down. I throw one out. I want it on the bottom right now. I don't want to wait.
I want to try them in the shallows here with those Berkeley gulps and see how they do. So
I tell you what I think they're good for is putting underneath a bobber.
Putting what?
Underneath a bobber.
Well, that's what I'm going to use it for exactly.
Yeah. They're just awful small. I've still got a few, but I don't have very many left. But I do have some. Yeah, they're a little bitty.
I got my eye on a couple of new jig molds, but they're going to have to wait till fall to get them.
I would hate to be out molding jigs right now.
Yeah, that ain't it.
And it's 7:58 and it's still 90 degrees. Wow. I done some here a while back when it was really hot, but man.
You know, I take those dogs of mine out in the backyard and I fill up that little pool for them, and I got a mister and I point that mister right at me, and I'll just sit out there and have me a cocktail and throw that ball for them, and I can still only handle about an hour of that. So,
well, I understand, and it's not going to last forever, but the alternative's not going to be that great either. Oh, it's going to get cold. Thank you, Jody. We appreciate it very much to see you in here.
Jody says, I caught panfish tonight, Lyle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You need them for bait or to eat, whichever. I seen you in there a while ago, and you had a pretty good one on. I think James said he'd eat that one. It was big enough to play.
I watched her for a couple minutes, hoping she'd fall in. It didn't happen, so I had to go eat dinner.
That's great. That's awesome. But yeah, it's different to fishing rivers and streams, but it all works the same. And you're after the same thing. If you are moving every 15 to 20 minutes of no actual produced action somewhere by changing depth of presentation or bait swap, that's true. Very true. I agree with that.
Oh, let me add something real quick to the side imaging. You had mentioned changing the range from side to side. Mm-hmm. I have 3 different ranges that I use, and I kind of stay with those. I'll use 100 feet when I'm looking for structure, because you're not going to really get a good idea of the fish, at least in the shallow water that I fish at 100 feet out. And then I'll narrow it down to 40 feet because I know how big a fish is when I do find a fish at 40 feet, once I find that structure. And then at 20 feet, when I get closer to that structure, I'll use 20 feet because I get a good idea if they're little dinks or if they're fish worth chasing after. That's the habit I've gotten into a lot lately. It's all what you're used to seeing. And once you catch some fish using your electronics, you get a better idea of what size it is. Also, a lot of electronics will have actual like markers or grid lines on them. That'll help you determine how big those fish are as well. So,
yep, I agree. The I just don't like having side imaging out as far. A lot of people run it at 100, 120 all the time, never less than 75, and there's no way you can tell anything about the fish that distance, especially panfish. Now, maybe a big catfish or something, maybe, but you know, very rarely do I go out that far. And I like mine in close because you got a better idea of what you're dealing with.
yep.
When you get it close enough that you can pick out them divots where they're spawning, you got her dialed in.
I get in the habit of, even when they're not spawning, if I find those little golf ball divots in the water, I drop a waypoint because I'm coming back to them, and you'll get used to the size of how big they are, which is another reason why I kind of use those 3 different ranges, because I got an idea of what kind of fish are leaving those, whether they're bass or bluegill for the most part.
That's right. You
I
touched
still
on
haven't,
something earlier.
I still haven't figured out crappie beds, but we'll get there eventually.
Oh, sure. You touched on something earlier that I wanted to get back to, and it got away from us. Of course, we got off on something else, but the little throwouts that you throw out that got the weight on them, it goes down. I got 4 of them in a boat. And if you go into a place and you catch 3 or 4 in one area right quick, toss one of them out and fish all around it.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that if you're on a tree limb or a root ball or a rock pile, it doesn't mean that it's going to hit right in the middle of it. But you're around where you're catching those fish. Or if you mark them, if you go over them and mark them, just throw that out right behind you and fish around it. Don't necessarily cast to it, but cast all the way around it. And that's where spot lock is in value.
Spot lock is awesome. I've had a problem with spot lock where I didn't throw a buoy out, and spot lock will turn you around every now and then, especially if there isn't a lot of wind, and you'll get your directions messed up, and you could be fishing 10 feet away from them fish and think that they're gone and they're not.
That's right.
That happens a lot too. So that's why those buoys are great, because they'll keep you on them fish. Absolutely.
The only thing you have to watch with the buoys is if you got enough line on them to reach the bottom.
Most of them come, I think, pretty well.
50 foot or something, yeah. But you'll break them and then you'll tie another weight on them. And
yep.
So just make sure you have plenty of string on them, because if you don't, they'll float off on you. Mm-hmm. And you'll be fishing when there ain't no fish.
I've thrown them off of my boat. I got the ones where the lead wraps around.
Me too.
Buoy. I've thrown them off of my boat forgetting to unbend that weight, and that buoy just floated on by. Must have fished that sucker for a half hour before I looked at the bank and noticed I was 100 feet away from where I started.
That's pretty good. But it can happen. I mean, it really can. And maybe we ought to make a mold like that with them straps. They make them straps like that for duck decoys too. So.
Yep. And here's something that I learned from you'll have to forgive me, but Floppin' Crappie, we had him as a guest. I forgot his name. Did. Great guy. There you go, David. Check out Floppin' Crappie on YouTube. He's a Garmin guy. He's got a lot of good videos, and he'll walk you through it in the simplest of language. He taught me that, keep your boat in a straight line when you're side scanning. You come across fish or a brush pile. What you do is you throw one over the side as soon as you pass it, turn around, come by. When you pass it again, you throw a second one out, you fish in between those buoys, and you'll pretty much be right on target. So that's helped me a lot in the past.
Mr. Duggar says, same with trolling walleye. Catch a couple, same area, market, but remember to add how far back your lures will help you zone in. That is very true. Very true. Great information there.
Something to add to that too, though. Make sure you're pulling the right kind of baits. Obviously, if you're dragging crawler harnesses, you're going to be on the bottom. But if you're dragging like crankbaits or crankbaits, you got to make sure you got the right kind of crankbait that's going to dive to that depth, as far back behind the boat as you got it. If you're using, twister tails, aka grubs, remember how far back you got and how fast you're going, because that's the only way you're going to figure it out. It's pretty intimidating at first, but the more you do it, the more you get used to it. 100%.
Yep. And that's specifically for walleye.
Yep.
Crappie.
And crappie too. I fished with Betty Jean trolling plastics for crappie, and she showed me a heck of a lot, no lie, on how to do it best, because her and Brandon they love trolling for them crappies. That's pretty much how they do it. So
very nice. Very nice.
Always give credit where credit's due, buddy. I try
That's
to.
right. That's right. Even if it's going towards dockery. And boy, I hate that worse than anything. Not really.
So are you getting a break in the weather this weekend? I don't recall you actually saying if it was going to cool off.
We don't have anything going on as a break until Saturday, I think Friday or Saturday. And then next weekend, it's going to be back down close to sit in the 69 or something. So
wow.
That's what I'm looking for.
You'll be wearing a parka if it's 69 degrees.
I will not. It's still over 90 here right now. Well, no, they reduced it to 89, but Tuesday 96. We got 89 Friday and Saturday, and then next weekend it's going to be 70 degrees for a low on Thursday and 87 for a high. And that's what I'm looking for next weekend.
Yeah, our weather breaks on. We got rain tomorrow, Friday, and then 86, 85 Saturday, Sunday. Our weather breaks on Tuesday with the low of 75, but a chance of storm. So 70s all next week.
This has been a weird summer, Mark. It's been either scalding ass hot or just really cool. And
I've gotten an awful lot of rain, and I don't know how to feel about that.
And we did too earlier, but we're not getting it now. I mean, I didn't even have to mow my yard the second time this week yet. There for a while, twice a week, every week, and maybe I ought to throw it in the third time, a few times, just because it globs up so bad, and then it looks like hell. But it is what it is. Come on, winter. Woo. Yeah, I like cool weather. I don't like it freezing ass cold, but I do like cool weather a lot.
I ain't ice fishing again this year, so hopefully the weather will hold up the fish nice and long. So
I didn't ice fish last year, or the year before, or the year before that, or any other years before.
You got to. Here's a question to end the show on here, Lyle. You ready? I need an honest answer. You got to pick one of these two: ice fish or kayak fish.
I got to pick one or two.
You got to pick one. You can't pick them both. Well, you can.
I'm not ice fishing ever, so.
All right, you heard that, Doc. Kayak. He said he would do it.
I will guarantee you I will fall out. I want Ryan board says it's 4 foot freaking wide, man.
I don't even think his is all that wide either, but he said
it is. He said it's 4 foot wide.
Oh my goodness.
4 foot wide, that even I might be able to get in it without turning it over. But I ain't sure. Man.
Benoit Fishing Outdoors says we went ice fishing 2 times in 4 days and it was gone. Only solid ice we had. Yeah.
Wow.
Last year the ice was lacking up here too. I gave up having to buy all that equipment. So.
Well, I know a lot of guys dearly love that. Good for them. But I'm telling you, right, has a tandem kayak turn into a single. Okay.
He's also like
what it is.
10 feet tall though. That young man.
He's tall. Yeah, he really.
He ain't that young anymore though. I hope he hears this. Do you know he's a grandfather, Lyle? I like to remind him of that every chance I get.
I'll bet that's right. I wouldn't say nothing that wonderful wife he's got, though. She's a sweetheart.
Absolutely not. I like her too.
Yeah. She's been doing quite a bit of fishing here lately with them, so good for them.
Maybe if I can get out early, maybe I'll do a little live stream pan fishing over the weekend. I was thinking about going tomorrow. I got an appointment tomorrow at about, I don't know what time it is. I got to check my calendar. I got an appointment tomorrow, which is near one of my pond spots. So I'll go to the trophy spot, which is right around the corner from where my appointment is. If my appointment isn't later in the afternoon, I got so many coming up here. I got to check my calendar, but hopefully we can get that done.
One of my favorite places, and a lot of my places around here, you get to go live when you go fishing a lot. I can't go live if I'm pan fishing because the places I go, there's no phone signal. That's really a bummer. So sometimes I'll throw the GoPro on and record while I'm fishing. Other times I'll just take pictures and do in. But I have
we can fix that for you. 2 words: Starlink.
no.
We're gonna get your credit card. We're getting you Starlink,
No.
so you can prove all the haters that you actually fish.
Oh, I do. I fish quite more than people realize.
They don't believe you.
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care.
It's not worth $300 a month.
How much?
I'm guessing it's like $500 for the setup and like $150 a month, something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we ain't never going to do that. That's for them guys that if you have enough money to go to Alaska where there is no phones or no nothing, and you get out somewhere and need help, that's your way out. That's for them guys. I'm not that guy. If I go to Alaska, I got a buddy up there that lives up there, said I can stay with him, and I'm going up there salmon fishing if I ever get to do that. And I'll be close to his house, so I won't give a damn.
So we got Chad's show on tomorrow night. We got to make sure we shout that out over on Fields to Water. We got Stan on Friday night. I'm not gonna announce that Jody fishes live Friday nights because she was so mean to me. We're not going to announce that. I don't think there's any online tournaments this weekend. I could be wrong. You know, Danny Stone goes live mostly on the weekends.
He
I
does.
think they're all going to Crab Orchard. So keep your eyes and ears peeled on YouTube and see if they're going to go live. You're going to want to do that. And then we'll be back to Catfish Weekly on Monday night, 100%.
Absolutely. And be sure to tune in to everybody and give everybody a thumbs up. We all need those. It helps get our word out to YouTube that we're serious about doing what we're doing, and they'll put you out in front of more people. So the more thumbs up and comments and different things that you get, the better it is for everybody. And be sure to subscribe to all the shows that you watch and watch some of them so your subscription will stick. Just like the guy like Caleb we had on a few weeks ago. He's nearly 100,000. He's just a few short. We really need to see if he can get over that. So if you haven't watched his channel, be sure to go check him out.
903 Fishing, folks. Check it out. He goes live. Not only does he do multiple videos during the week, he goes live on Sunday nights. Make sure you give him go over there, give him a thumbs up, and tell him we sent you over there. All right, guys? I'd appreciate it if you did.
That's it. Schmieder of the Cedar says a lot of good information tonight. Thanks, fellas. You are so very welcome. Thanks for watching us. Hey, Big Bill. Good to see you, buddy. And we'll see everybody next week. Thanks for watching, folks.
Get out and fish.
Yes.
Stay cool.